Okay, welcome back to Redefine Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey Wells. And you guys, today I have two very special, very important guests with me today. We have Susie and Dr. Ruchi, and I will let them intro themselves in a moment. But as you heard on my last episode, the solo episode I did sharing about my experience living with anaphylactic allergies and all of the information that I gave you there, this is, as promised, the part 2 to that episode where we are going to really get into the science behind life-threatening allergies and potential causes and treatments and all of those questions that many of you have raised since that last episode, and as well as introduce a dear friend of mine who is advocating and doing so much for the allergy community by creating an app, which is so cool. So I'm going to let them get into everything. We're going to cover a lot today, so buckle in. But I'm just so thrilled, and I want to thank you guys both for your time. So, Dr. Ruchi, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure, I'm happy to. So I'm Ruchi Gupta. I am a pediatrician. I've been studying food allergies for 20 years, over 20 years now. I have a daughter who has food allergies, so I live it every day of my life. And I've written a book on food allergies, and yeah, so it's pretty much my 24/7. So I'm so appreciative of you spreading this awareness and getting the word out there about what's happening.
I mean, we're all doing our part. So,
Yeah.
all right, Susie.
I'm Susie Hultquist. I am an allergy mom to a now 20-year-old daughter with life-threatening nut allergies. I left a Wall Street career to build an app called Spokin. It's free iOS app, just really to give more yeses to the allergy community. It comes with a lot of no's and restrictions, as I'm sure Kelsey will speak to. And I really wanted to give my daughter and the whole community an easier way to find safe foods, places to eat, travel, and each other.
Amazing. I mean, it is so cool. So I do want to kind of give some backstory. As you guys are aware, I created a petition pretty recently about, gosh, maybe almost 4 weeks ago now. And out of that, I kind of spoke publicly about my personal allergies for the first time. It's not something that I hid per se, but it's definitely something that I never really spoke about, more than just saying when pertinent that I did have them. But when I posted the petition and took that leap of faith, Susie actually slid into my DMs, and I'm so glad that I saw it. And I had never heard of the Spokin app, and ever since, getting connected with her and realizing all that she's doing for the food allergy community and downloading the app, it is so cool. I mean, it is kind of like a review platform, like a Yelp meets a social platform where you can connect with people who can relate to you and truly, like you said, to bring more yeses. And when I'm looking at this, like I opened it up and I was like, wow, this really makes a huge impact on me as someone who travels. For anyone who wants to travel, to just know that someplace you're visiting, you can open up an app and it has reviews from other people living with your same allergies who say, hey, I went to this restaurant and they were very accommodating. This was safe for me. This wasn't. And it also makes you feel a lot more seen, heard, less alone. So the Spoken app, I highly 12 out of 10 recommend to anyone with a food allergy or for anyone who loves anyone with a food allergy. So, so cool. And it's not something that you just use and see. It's something that you contribute to, like a Yelp would be or something. You can add in your own reviews for your own places you've been to and had good experiences with as a way to help other people in the community, but also thank those establishments who are actually caring. So I've been so impressed with the Spoken app. I've just recently downloaded it and I'm excited to contribute myself as well as use it. So we'll let Susie get kind of all into that shortly, but we really wanted to begin. And also, I have to thank Susie for introducing me to Dr. Ruchi because I said after I connected with Susie, I want to have a medical expert on allergies on the podcast. And you were the first recommendation, and you're obviously perfect. So I want to start with you, and I would love for you to give me some context, first of all, about your book that you've written and what kind of help that might provide for those that are interested in that, and kind of just the just sum of why you wrote that book and what it is in a nutshell. Give us some context there. I know writing a book is no small feat, and I think that that's incredible contribution as well for the allergy community. So such a beautiful asset. So talk to us about that, and then also, um, yeah, I guess let's start there, and then we'll get into kind of some of the questions that have come through.
Sure, absolutely. Well, why I wrote the book is a long, long road. So we'll
Sure.
start with I got into food allergy research about 20 years ago, and it actually came, just like your listeners, from families who had food allergy. And Susie knows because we've been on this journey together. And they had 2 kids with food allergies. There wasn't a lot of research in the space. And I, thought maybe I have the skill set because I had trained, gotten my MPH and, as a pediatrician. So jumped in, started looking into it, started doing a lot of the prevalence. We'll get into all of those numbers. And then my daughter developed food allergies 3 years into it. So
Oh,
joined the club,
wow.
joined Susie's club of being a parent. So it didn't start with her. It just
That is
happens.
interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she is 17. So Susie and I have both been on this journey with our daughters together and how to empower them. And I know we'll talk a lot about that. So continued to do research, did a lot on public health impact, disparities, prevention, treatments, like everything around food allergies. And then we were asked about adults. So like you, Kelsey, like how many adults have food allergies? And so we did a study on that. And what we found is that 1 in 5 adults think they have a food allergy. And only about 1 in 20 are going to see a doctor. And the real number is probably closer to 1 in 10, have convincing symptoms of a food allergy. So that kind of prompted the book, like if adults are not going to doctors, and a lot of the kids aren't getting to allergists because of so many reasons on access. So how do we get information to them? So that's kind of where this book came from. It really goes through all kinds of food issues because there's a lot of masqueraders, intolerances, oral allergy syndrome, a lot of the GI conditions. So how do you figure out what you have? If you eat a food and have a reaction, how do you know what it is? So that's kind of where the book started, and went on that journey to try to help people understand it on their own, and then have, conversations with their doctors around, okay, I read this and I think this may be what's going on with me, things like that.
Wow.
That's my
Very
story,
cool.
and
Well,
here I am.
that's remarkable. And I mean, thank you. I think that's crazy. And both of your daughters are lucky to have you. I'm so grateful for my parents. And I said this on my solo episode, but I just want to share with you guys too. I have thought more times than I can count since becoming a parent. I'm so grateful that I'm the one with the allergy and not my son. I feel like it would be so much harder mentally.
Yeah.
So my hat's off and my heart is out to every parent of someone with an allergy similar to mine. So I kind of want to jump right into I guess the meat of this, which is anaphylaxis and the very, there are the food allergies, obviously, as you mentioned, there's such a scale, there's such a different width of types and symptoms, but my petition is geared towards hopefully helping mandate the availability of EpiPens in public places, especially restaurants. And lots of people are like, what the hell's an EpiPen? Right? So I guess like I would love for you to break it down kind of on a very like rudimentary level. What is anaphylaxis? What's the science behind a life-threatening food allergy? How common are life-threatening allergies? Because I do have friends who are intolerant to something. They might eat something and have a little tummy ache or something. And that is very different than what I live with, right? So kind of break us down for anaphylactic allergies, which allergens cause anaphylaxis, because I guess not all do. Of course, you can be allergic to something and it wouldn't cause anaphylaxis potentially. So kind of just get into all of the science behind that, and then also the stats behind how many people are living with a life-threatening food allergy.
Sure. Susie, you want me to start and then I'll pass it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
all of these
Definitely.
questions I'm posing are for the collective group. So either of you, both of you, love all the input.
Absolutely.
Have Ruchi take this one.
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. So about 1 in 13 kids have a food allergy. So it's about 2 in every classroom. So that's why you see all these nut bans,
And is that greater than 2 decades ago? 3 decades
it
ago?
definitely is.
Because when I was a kid, I feel like I was a pariah. Like it was not a known or common thing.
Yeah, and you're young. So when we were kids, definitely didn't exist in our generation. I mean, everybody took peanut butter and jelly to school, and that's what you hear all the time, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I even have a poster in my office when with an adult talking to a kid saying, when I was a kid, there were no food allergies, because that's what all our kids hear. And then the kid grows up and is talking to another kid and says, when I was your age, there were food allergies. And that's kind of our dream. Can we get rid of this as quickly as it came? But yes, we call it an epidemic. We don't know what happened. I mean, 1 in 13 kids is a lot, 1 in 10
it's
adults.
millions just in the US.
32 million in the US, a food allergy. And so it is really significant. And we know that it can't, genetics don't change that fast. So, we'll get into the why, but, why is this happening? What in our environment? But top foods. So what you mentioned is a food allergy. A food allergy is an immune-mediated reaction. So your immune system is recognizing that food as an invader and goes on attack. And that's why you have this intense reaction or a mild reaction, and it impacts every organ system. So that's what makes it really confusing. You can get skin, hives, itching. You can get throat closing. You hear a lot about that. You can get trouble breathing, and you can get vomiting. Vomiting is a very common one. And it can even impact your cardiovascular system. You can get a drop in blood pressure, and it can happen very rapidly. And when it is, kind of that cascade that's happening rapidly and can be life-threatening, that's when we call it anaphylaxis. You asked about top foods. So we now have top 9. So everyone knows about peanuts. And then, of course, the other tree nuts. You have shellfish, which is the most common in adults, shellfish and finfish. Then you have egg and milk, which are the most common in young children. And then soy and wheat. And number 9, which is the big up and coming one, is sesame. So those are the top allergens, but you can be allergic to anything, really any food, but those are the most common. And any of those foods can cause a severe allergic reaction. Now, the things you were talking about, things like intolerances. So milk is a confusing one. So you can have a milk lactose intolerance, which everyone has heard of and half the world has. Now that's different than a milk allergy.
Sure.
Yeah. So a milk, a lactose intolerance, you don't have the enzyme in your gut to digest it properly. So you'll get bloating and GI discomfort, diarrhea sometimes, like just that yuck feeling. But you won't go into anaphylaxis, and it's not necessarily life-threatening, So that's because it's not immune mediated, it's an enzyme. So that's where there's a lot of things that that's why it's so important for you to figure out what it is, because if you have lactose intolerance, there's actually things you can do. You can take a pill to replace those enzymes. You can buy special foods without, lactose in it. So very important. Susie, turn it over to you. Add more.
Well, I was going to say, on our app, we know there's top 9 allergens, but on our app, when our users sign up, we capture 78 allergens because we know that, it's really important. We want to know what you're allergic to, and we are this platform that's capturing that. But we actually see what's upcoming as a growing allergen, especially based on the age. So some of the data we have shows that there are other seeds besides sesame that are really kind of exploding. And it's really, we caution companies to be really careful to say something is allergy free, because you can be allergic to chocolate. You can be allergic to anything. And so, you really can be allergic. It's just how common it is. That's really different. And that's one of the benefits of our app, is we didn't want to put something ever in front of you if flax seeds are what you're allergic to. So the customization, I get offended when I see Reese's. That was the reason we built that in the app, but we also have tremendous data. I know you can actually be allergic to anything. It's important to know that.
Wow. Yeah. See, I didn't even know that you could be anaphylactically allergic to anything. So this is, news for me. I think that's a huge, important distinction, that you can be intolerant to something, and that's not the same as having an allergy. And you can also be allergic to anything, but there's a group of things that are much more common to have a serious allergy towards. Is that kind of in some what I'm understanding?
Yes. Yeah. There's a group of foods that are the most common, but yes, you can be allergic to anything. And there are some foods that are well known to be more severe, but any food can. So we don't like to really, say, oh, it's all peanuts and, milk isn't, because,
Yeah,
in
until
our
you get
big
tested, you
survey,
don't know.
yeah, 1 in 4 kids with a milk allergy had, a severe allergic reaction. So any food can cause it, because it depends on so many things. You have to, it depends on how much you ingested. It depends on if your immune system's compromised in any other way, like, fighting off a virus. It depends on if you exercise. There's a lot of factors that go into if you are going to have a more severe reaction.
And
That's
I think if, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say one thing that I think is so important that, like, I can't tell you how many times a day I say this. Someone will say it's just a mild allergy. And you may think your status is it's just a mild allergy if I consume peanuts, but your past reactions are no indication of what your future reactions can be. And so I always cringe when someone says, oh, it's just mild. I don't even carry an EpiPen. And I'm like, well, the next one, and I think there's lots of evidence, and certainly Ruchi could speak to it, where the last reaction may have been just hives. That doesn't mean the next reaction isn't going to be anaphylaxis. So I think it's one of those things that you almost can foreshadow that, like, people need to take it really seriously, just because what it's been in the past, if you actually have a true allergy, is no indication of your future reaction.
That's very
On
important.
those
Yeah, I
variables
think
and
that's
probably
key.
others too.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I would love for you to speak on kind of two things are coming to mind. And these are all of the things that I'm asking are kind of, I've read through all the questions sent through, and these are like main topics that were asked multiple times or in multiple ways. So I'm trying to condense to make, the most of this. But with a food allergy, as someone, I resonate with this so deeply personally, but also it was clear in the questions and feedback that came through. It's very difficult when you share that you have a life-threatening food allergy and then it's almost immediately minimized. I don't think the intention is to minimize it, but people say, "Oh, well, have you just done this?" Or, "Oh, it's in your head," or, "You just need to do this meditation," or, "You just need to do this healing thing." And like, you can fix it. You can heal it. It'll go away. And it's so frustrating. Like, I would do anything. I have tried a lot of things, a lot of random things. I would do anything to make this go away, right? It's not that simple, but I would love to hear, so kind of a caveat to that, like, just, I guess, the validity and the severity of these things. And there is no, is it true that there is no cure? Like, if so, I'm going to be the happiest person on earth. But as far as, my decades living with this, I don't know of one. I've tried a lot of them that say that they might help and they haven't. So just kind of speak to the reality of this, the severity of this, and the fact that as of now, at least for my allergy, there is no cure. Or where are we at? Do you think we'll find a cure? All of that.
I say I think we will find a cure, but I'm gonna let Ruchi answer this question because I'm an optimist, and I
Sure.
do
Yeah.
believe there will be a cure. I think there are treatments that are out there right now, and as a non-medical professional, I think it's best to let Ruchi respond to
Okay.
that. But I think we are very abreast of, people come to us quite a bit, and we actually cover it in a lot of our content, like what treatments are out there. I don't think there is a one size fits all. Similar to you, Kelsey, my daughter has done everything. I mean, almost everything, and some wackadoodle stuff, some stuff I like
Yeah.
feel horrible, like what I put her through. And I think that, we're desperate, and would do anything, of course, for the actual cure. There's some stuff that I'm sure Ruchi and I are both privy to that's kind of on the horizon. I think most things have been, towards, trying to desensitize people. And I don't think anything comes with a free ride. So I
Mhm.
think everything that's been out there so far has, another side to it, and things in your life that you're going to have to accommodate. But Ruchi, you're probably best to answer this question.
Sure. Yeah, no, this is one of the most important questions out there. So, and as you said, Kelsey and Susie, you said it is so true. When you have a food allergy, you'll do anything. So anyone who says, "Oh, I think I can fix it with whatever," you're going to try it, because food is a part of everything we do, right?
Yeah.
It's 3 meals, snacks, parties, ball games, whatever. Everywhere you go, food is central. So everyone is desperate, and we are with our daughters, and you are with yourself, right? Trying different things. So what do we know and what's out there? It is an exciting time for food allergy. I too am a full optimist that we will find a cure. We do not currently have a cure. I think it's important when you get these random testings or random treatments to really talk to a doctor, and ideally an allergist to review them, because you'll be chasing after a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there. Now, what is on the horizon and what's exciting in food allergy is lots of treatments. So one is called, it's basic immunotherapy. So there's oral immunotherapy. It's kind of like when you think of allergy shots, everybody knows about those, right? You go up on doses until your body gets used to it. So it's the same kind of concept. You go up on the amount of food you're eating slowly and under supervision of an allergist, and you eat more and more. And then your body is, we call it desensitized. So your body's like, okay, I'm fine with that one peanut now. So what that does for you is it allows you to not worry as much about things like cross contact, or, be as fearful because your body now has been able to tolerate up to usually a couple peanuts orally, or I'm using peanut, but it's any food. So currently allergists are doing this in pretty much all the states, but it's not a FDA approved treatment. There is one for peanut that's an FDA approved treatment. All the other foods, allergists are just doing it on their own. So you can find an allergist pretty much in every single state in the country who does oral immunotherapy. Another one is sublingual immunotherapy. So I know I'm going through all these words, but sublingual is, say under your tongue, right? Like little drops so it's smaller amounts of the protein. Instead of eating it, you are putting it under your tongue. And then same idea, slowly increase it, and hopefully you'll be able to tolerate small amounts of that food. The other one that hopefully will be coming out very soon is epicutaneous immunotherapy. So all these different ways. So that's a patch you put on your skin. And through that patch, you get small doses of that food protein that hopefully then your body starts recognizing.
And then when you say small doses, you're saying like microscopic.
Yes.
Because honestly, I hear this and I don't want anyone to go out there and like try to start feeding themselves little bits of things, because as someone who it's like, I can't even touch a surface that someone who has previously eaten a peanut butter sandwich and I touch my face and I'm having a reaction. So it's like, this sounds impossible to me, because how do you even start? I can't expose myself at all or else I'm having an allergic reaction. So it seems like a pipe dream, like, to be honest. But so I just want to make clear, like when she's saying go only do this through a real doctor, an allergist, and the small doses they're exposing you to are like microscopic, like tiny, tiny small, correct?
Yes.
So it's not anything anyone should be like trialing out.
No, you do not do this at home. Yes, it has the warning. Yeah. Do not try this at home. Definitely go see your allergist. Talk about what works for you. The slit is definitely microdoses. Oral immunotherapy, they start you at very small amounts too, and the patch as well. So and you just move up slowly, and you do this under their supervision, so and then the other exciting piece is we have a couple biologics, and what that is it's a shot that you take, either every other week or every month. They're not out yet, but they're close. There's one that's being fast-tracked by the FDA. And what that does is it stops part of the pathway that causes that cascade of reaction. So it blocks it. So when you take that shot, it will block the cascade. So you will not necessarily have that full reaction when you eat the food. Now, it's not a cure. Doesn't mean you can. None of these are cures. All they are treatments to make your life a little bit better, because you're not worried about, just having a micro amount and having a reaction. So that's kind of what we have to date. Sorry. Susie, I don't think I missed anything. Did I?
I don't think you missed anything. I was just going to add to that, Ruchi's right. And obviously 100% you've got to be with a medical provider and be under their care. I see the other side of it, which is I think you need to talk to families that have actually gone through this and see how it impacts their life. I am, not to put a wet blanket on it, but I have a daughter who actually graduated from peanut OIT. And I think, Kelsey, you'll appreciate this. My daughter just doesn't stop dancing and moving, and she's like one of those kids, she's really physical. And there was a requirement to kind of remain still, not to get your body heated and exercise. And at the time she did it, it was during like COVID. And she just, she was 3 years post this graduation, still eating peanuts daily and still having restrictions physically. And this is, obviously going back a couple of years. And she just said, I can't live like this. I can't live like this. And she, her mental health was also the impact on your mental health of whatever the regime's going to be, whatever kind of treatment you're going to be, whatever the maintenance looks like. And I think that will change over time. It's important to know what you're signing up for and know that that's something, she was getting ready to send her off to college. I was like, she's not going to even eat them. Like the maintenance dose that she had to do. Every kid is different in their approach, or every person. And some of those treatments, depends on your age. What's actually available to you or not depends on your age too. So I think it's really important to ask questions of like, what does this really look like? Certainly from your, allergist and your medical provider. Also talking to families and like, what is this really like in your house? Like, what does it look like to do these regimes? So I just think it's important. But I think some of what Ruchi talked about, some of the shots, are the things that I'm actually the most excited about that are coming.
Sure. So in sum, again, to just put it really like more succinctly, there is research being done. There are some methods being trialed right now to help those living with food allergies not have to be as paranoid. There is no cure, and there is no cure on the horizon. Obviously, we all have hope. I am a chosen optimist, 100% believer in positivity in all things. But just to be very clear, there's not a cure, and it's all very nuanced. Obviously, allergies are different. So there's the good news is that there is research being done. There's growing awareness with the growing amount of people who are having very, life impacting allergies. And that is hopeful, like that is good to hear, I guess. But also I hear these things and you just think, okay, like, I've been hearing since I was 10 that the shot is almost ready for nuts or peanuts, and it's been 30 years. So, 20 years, whatever. But the point is, we're all, I don't know, it's doing our best, but I think it is important to say, like, as of now, there's no cure, and the things being trialed are more to help it be less scary than to fix it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, to exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
So you, like Susie's daughter, you may be able to eat a couple peanuts, and then that you feel safer than when you're around
That's
it.
wild to me. I can't even fathom that, right?
Yeah. But to her point, it becomes another, like her daughter, you have to eat it every day or, every couple days, because we don't know if you stop eating it, will you then have a reaction again?
I
So
don't know
you're
if I could deal with the
100%
mental fear of sitting down and making myself do that.
Yeah. I mean, we know that food allergies have a huge, psychological toll, right? Because you're worried when you eat, and then even with some of these treatments that may be scary. So that's why, like Susie said, it's very important. Talk to other parents, talk to your doctor, really sit down. It's called, we call it shared decision making. It's not
absolutely.
it's a decision you
Never a
make
one
with
size fits all.
Yes.
Like
And
with
figure out what's
really
right for
anything.
you and your lifestyle,
Sure.
like that is so important. My daughter's going to college too, and I know she can't do OIT, it's too cumbersome. So maybe the shot's better if it comes out in the next year, right? Like, but what you said is 100%. There is so much research being done. It is a very hopeful future. I've never seen a disease state change so much in 20 years that I've been in this space as food allergy. We have new treatments, we have new epinephrine auto-inject epinephrine, which we'll talk about, and we have prevention. So for your listeners who have newborns, I think one of the biggest landmark trials that now we know about is that we can prevent food allergies. So early, yeah.
Okay,
So I wish we
let's
had
hear
it
all
or we
about
knew
this.
about it, but
no, please, I'd love to hear all about this. I think this is very
so
important.
what happened was so the rule is introduce peanut products early.
Okay.
So if your baby has eczema, so really dry skin, irritated skin, broken skin,
Which I
Then
did.
it's also important to go talk to you. You did. My daughter did. Susie, yours, eczema.
Yep.
Yeah. That is the number one risk factor for developing food allergies.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's something, it's called the atopic march for your listeners. So it starts with eczema, atopic derm is another word for it, that broken skin. Then you go into food allergies, allergic rhinitis, so more environmental allergies, and asthma. All of those conditions are related. Doesn't mean you have to have all of them, but you have a higher chance of having the others if you have one.
Wow.
So eczema is the number one risk factor for developing a food allergy. So if your baby has eczema, get them to your pediatrician, get them to an allergist, and get them assessed. And we're doing studies now to see if we can prevent that eczema and protect that skin barrier, if we can decrease it. But the biggest prevention thing we've learned is if you introduce peanut products to your baby early, you have an 80% reduction in developing a peanut allergy if you're high risk. So high risk meaning having that eczema. So I encourage all your listeners with babies to not their first food, but second or third.
Yeah, how early is early, right? Like, because I guess a baby starts eating solids at least 10 years ago when I had a baby. It was like around 6 months that we could start having him eat solid foods. And then it was like no honey for a year or something. And then my doctor, because of my own allergy, they said to expose Anderson to all the allergens pretty soon, like after, like as soon as he started eating solids, really.
Wow, you have a great pediatrician. I'm so proud of them.
Yeah, he's amazing. He is. So
So
good.
that's exactly right. So we usually say the earlier the better. So babies start being developmentally ready to eat solids around between 4 and 6 months.
Okay.
So you don't have to wait till 6 months. If your baby is like sitting there drooling, he's got his head held up, watching you eat, give him a little food and get him started. So somewhere between 4 and 6 months. And then the way you introduce peanut products is you can take peanut butter and smooth peanut butter and mix it with breast milk, formula, water, applesauce, whatever, just to thin it out. And then you start introducing. So a little bit on the lip, wait a little bit. They usually love it and lick it up. I don't know about if that happened with you, but and then just keep feeding them and just observe them. And typically they love it and do fine. And then the most important thing is keep it in their diet, at least like 3 times a week. If you can get 2 teaspoons in them, then that is what's been shown to prevent. And the other foods, we're doing a large study right now here at Northwestern in my lab, looking at if we introduce the other foods, can we also prevent? But most people think you can. Egg has been shown, good data. Milk you can introduce in the form of yogurt, so get that in them. And then any of the other foods, food is food. So just get it in your baby. And the more they're exposed to early in life while their immune system is developing, the better off they'll be.
Wow. So with this is, I'm trying not to make it like about me and my experience, but I also do so much appreciate the opportunity to have clarity, and it might be interesting for people to like listen to me learn things in real time. Right. But also I think it's educational for new parents. So, I was born, or like from infancy, I was allergic to milk, strawberries. Like I had a whole slew of allergies. My poor mom, like she was very careful. She couldn't eat those because she was obviously breastfeeding me. Well, not obviously, lots of people don't breastfeed, but she was breastfeeding me. And so she avoided all of these allergens that I was essentially like born with. And then I grew out of all of those allergies. And then I grew into my much more serious peanut and tree nut allergies around 18 months. And then I was told kind of like if an infant has some sort of allergy, they often outgrow it. But if you grow into a food allergy later in life, you very, very rarely outgrow it. Is that still true? Does that make sense? I guess maybe shed some light on that.
Sure. Susie, I felt like you were going to say something earlier, but I'll answer this. Do you want to go ahead? Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm going to let you answer this as the doctor. I was just going to say, just to close the loop on what you were asking, Kelsey, because to the extent that you have young followers with young children or are pregnant, when I see someone who's pregnant, I send we actually interviewed the doctor, Dr. Gideon Lack, who's the one that discovered this really landmark study that, based in Israel, when the babies were eating the bamba, like this peanut product and the powder that they had, and they were actually being introduced so much earlier. he is the, the godfather of like, really all the science that came out of this. We actually interviewed, I don't know if you have show notes, but I can send you the link that anybody can access that kind of speaks to it in plain language and kind of outlines all the good work that like, Ruchi just explained. But for anybody, if I see
Amazing.
anybody pregnant or with a young baby,
Yes.
I'm like, give me your cell phone number. I've got to text you an article.
Yeah,
So
we'll
happy to
definitely
share
link
that.
that article in the
That's,
show notes of this
yeah,
episode. So anyone listening.
but go
Definitely.
ahead, Ruchi. You take the answer. You
That's
take the answer
amazing.
to Kelsey's question.
No, like you said earlier, Kelsey, like Susie's app has so much good information, so much rich information for everyone. And so please, everyone access it. Spokin. So I was going to tell you, so for the whole idea of growing out of food allergies is really important. So a lot of people do. So there is positivity there. Milk and egg are two of the ones that are most commonly outgrown, which is awesome because they're the hardest to avoid. It's so hard to, live without milk and egg. And we have other treatments for milk and egg. We have these egg and milk ladders now where you can start with baked because all kids like the baked stuff, right? Like you want the cookies and the cakes and the brownies. So really talk to your allergist because if you can start on baked and then transition to regular, there is a very high probability your child can outgrow milk and egg. Similar with soy and wheat, they're a little bit easier outgrown. Peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish, finfish, 15 to 20% outgrow. So there's still a chance.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can.
Sorry, from infancy, or are you talking about someone who's grown into it later in life? Can they still outgrow it?
Yeah, so that actually is such an excellent question. So when you say grown into it, my question back to you is, did you ever try it before 18 months?
Yeah, I
Because,
ate it a lot.
oh, and then you developed
Yeah.
symptoms. Okay. Because
Yeah.
one thing we don't know is, do you tend to see peanuts, tree nuts, shellfish, finfish developing later, but we think it's because people are trying it later. Now, you are totally right. And in fact, half of the adults we talked to who had a convincing food allergy, half of them said they developed a new allergy as an adult. So it is really, really important what you're saying, that you can develop allergies at any age, it's like you did. So you are also right. If you develop it later, you do have less of a chance to develop tolerance to it. If you develop it early, the earlier you develop it, the earlier we can even start one of these treatments. Your body's immune system is still developing, and we feel like you can potentially kick it, and have normal tolerance and be cured of it, truly cured of it.
Beautiful. Yeah. So basically with me, and I'll share it a very small version because I shared the full version last episode, but essentially I grew out of my milk and my egg allergies, like I talked about, that I have from infancy, but then I ate peanut butter all the time and tree nuts a lot. And I grew into my anaphylactic allergy to both of those at around 18, 19 months old. And at first, every 6 months we would test, and then every year we would test. And then it was when I was like 18 that I just told my parents, like, I can't do this anymore. And I went years without testing. And then I had a really big scare. Well, I tried a Nayette, like a different treatment to cure, and we tested and it didn't do anything. I got kind of scolded by my doctor. And then I not saying that can't work for some people. Like, I don't want to like bash that in any sense, but it didn't work for me. And then I had a big scare and I got tested again. So those last two tests were about 5 years apart, and I haven't tested since then because at this point they're pretty much telling me it's not going to change. But I did grow out of my almond allergy. So like, that's a miracle, right? So I don't know.
Yeah. So almond and hazelnut are two commonly grown out of ones, and cashew, walnut, pistachio, those are harder.
Yeah.
So Kelsey, we'll talk later. We'll get you set up.
Cool.
Okay. But definitely know that, there are ways, especially if your kids are young, even if they're really young and they've developed a food allergy, there are things you can do to help them develop tolerance, especially for some of these allergens. And just like Susie, we've created a lot of free handouts, just our Northwestern Center, and I think Susie has most of them. But I'm happy to link to a lot of our information for your for your listeners.
I love that. Yeah, we will load these show notes with information. So anyone listening, please check them out. There will be a lot of resources there. And again, on the Spokin app, there's so many resources that are often being added and updated. So that's like a constant resource for you. But my main theme here, I think, from this little section is that there is hope, which is huge because it feels so daunting and it feels like there's not sometimes. So I think that that's very cool. There's research being done, you guys. There's always a chance that you or your child could outgrow your allergy, which is very, very um, hopeful and good news. So cool. I love this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
I
yeah.
was just
Yep. Go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, Kelsey, you know, we have one of our ambassadors on the Spokin app. She's in her late 20s, deathly allergic to peanuts, all tree nuts, shellfish, fish, chickpeas, etc. Had not been tested in 5 years, and went to get tested because she saw something Spokin. Went to get tested and had a certain type of testing called component testing done, where it's not just that there's one protein in peanut, there's multiple proteins, and some you're more likely to have an anaphylactic reaction to than others. And with that information, we can link to that one too. She ended up finding out, just like you, I don't know exactly how old you are, but she found out in her late 20s she was no longer allergic to anything but peanut. And I can share that story that we have of hers, that she actually had a challenge like all these foods. But I've seen, because we hear a lot, we talk to people in the community all the time. I think there is hope. I still hope for my daughter. We still test her every year in her 20s, 20 now. But this young woman, her name is Alyssa, every single thing showed up zero. And it's life changing, but I've seen it happen. Obviously it does happen.
Wow.
100%, Susie. And I'm so glad you shared that, because that's what I was mentioning. Kelsey will take care of you, because you should get tested every year, because you don't know. There's so many things that, your environment, your diet, like different things influence your immune system. For women, hormones, like when you get pregnant or menopause or puberty, have an influence on your system. So do get tested.
Wow.
That's a beautiful story, Susie. And you see a lot of young people like you who don't get tested. We've a couple of people I know who even work in our lab haven't been tested for 5-10 years and are avoiding milk. JJ, he went, I made him go get tested, and now all of a sudden he hasn't had ice cream in his life. He hasn't had cheese, and he sends pictures now of him eating all these items and so excited. So do not just write it off, really get tested and see what your numbers are. Yeah.
But this is crazy. Like, I honestly am so grateful you shared that, Susie. And I think
Yeah.
Oh, babe. Oh,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
no,
no.
no. Allergy mom's hugging.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Wait, I literally
it's
didn't think that there was like any. I think I gave up hoping for myself like a long, long, long time ago. So just even to hear that there is even maybe a chance, like, I don't know, like, if it's crazy. Like, I feel like, and it's okay. Like, I'm obviously okay if it never changes for me, but like, just hearing these situations of other people my age and just knowing that there is still a chance,
Yes.
I feel like I'm feeling hope for the first time in decades. So
Amazing.
I can tell you, my own daughter failed a walnut challenge like twice, and they kept thinking there's a chance, and third time, like, the numbers are just numbers, they went down, and she had this window, and it was like, she, like, you started with almonds. I told you I call it almond joy. And when you're not allergic to that, and I mean, I'm living proof. My own daughter outgrew, especially, like, tree nuts is not just one tree nut. There's so many of them.
yeah,
So, I mean, you are a chosen optimist, you told me,
I
and
am.
we're gonna take care of you. So you
And
Yes.
honestly,
have
more so in the
that
last decade of my
information.
life. So hey.
Yes. And we'll take care of all the listeners too. We'll take care of all of you. So anyone, just feel free to reach out to me and Susie, because there is definitely hope, and there's a chance that you may not have some of these, and you can start eating, Nutella or, whatever again.
Like, I can't actually imagine, so wow, that's very cool. Thanks, you guys. Whew.
And if you can, I've got a hazelnut-free Nutella for you too. So
no, I actually saw that on Spokin the first time I opened it, and I downloaded it straight away. I looked at my son and I was like, "Oh my gosh, look at this!" So it's coming. It's on the way.
We'll get some sent to you. We'll get some sent to you. We'll send it to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, we all learn from our kids. Like, Susie knows, my daughter was born with eczema and cradle cap, and I created like a solution for her, and it worked on her. I gave it away to my patients, and we just launched. So it's a great cream for if your babies or you as an adult, it works for everyone, has eczema, balancing your microbiome, and it's great for your scalp and hair. Wow. It's called Yobee. I'll send it to you. It's a, things come out of your lab, and you just want to share them with the world, and it's absolutely really, it's fun, right? And if you can find a solution that works and put it into the world. So yes, absolutely. Susie and I, she's taught me the power of putting your ideas out there, and it's been amazing. It's Spokin and hopefully Yobee help people, and then all the great industry partners we have making all kinds of treatments and new diagnostics. And then we didn't even talk about it, Susie, the new epinephrine auto-injector. So you mentioned, what is an EpiPen?
Yes, so let's talk about that for a second. Yeah. Tell us, like, epinephrine is obviously the medication inside an EpiPen, which is, or EpiPen is technically a brand of an auto-injector, right?
You got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've also had the Twinject in my life. Is that even still around?
I think it is.
Yeah. So, but like, run us through what epinephrine is. Get kind of both of you. There's a lot of frustration around the price and the cost of these things and the accessibility of these things, especially in the States. Because I go to Australia, I travel a lot for work, and in some countries, I rock up to any pharmacy in the airport and I buy an EpiPen, no questions asked. Maybe it's $100, and they're always looking at me like, "Oh, it's very expensive," but I'm like, back home with insurance, it's $700. So, it's different other places. But I'd love for you guys both to just share, obviously, the science behind what it actually is, why it's so important and life-changing for those living with allergies, and then also just kind of like the situation with EpiPens and epinephrine in general.
You want me to start again, Susie?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So epinephrine, it is adrenaline, right? We all know adrenaline. And in Europe, it's called adrenaline, so it's not called epinephrine, which I wish we would switch it here, because people wouldn't be as scared of it, because we all have adrenaline in our bodies. So
synthetic adrenaline is what it is.
Exactly. So you're not injecting anything scary. So that's the first thing to know. And what epinephrine does is it reverses a lot of the things caused by this allergic cascade, right? So things like histamine and other things are released, and they cause the symptoms you have. And so what it does is it helps tighten up your blood vessels. I mentioned cardiovascularly, you can get a drop in blood pressure because you become leaky. It tightens those up. It loosens your airway so that you can breathe better. It does a lot of good stuff for your body. So don't be scared of epinephrine. It is the only thing we have right now in terms of, if you are having an allergic reaction and you use epinephrine right away, it can help you recover so much faster. So it is really, really important people aren't scared of it. What's exciting about epinephrine is, people used to be scared of the shot. So we have a couple, like you said, EpiPen, Twinject, there's generics now, there's AviQ, which is the one that talks to you. But we have 2 intranasal companies making intranasal epinephrine. Wow. And we have 1 company making a sublingual epinephrine. And there may be more, Susie, that I'm missing, but there's going to be other ways of taking epinephrine in the next year. So
do you think those are going to be like fast enough to help a very severe allergic reaction?
Yes. I mean, the FDA is requiring all the testing to make sure it's identical in its ability to work as the injection, as the epinephrine auto-injector.
That's incredible. I mean, as a I I hate needles. Like I've always been afraid of needles since I was a little girl. And when I was little, it was a problem because I was very, very, very scared. And the couple times that I did have to take it, like I was refusing. Like I didn't understand enough. Like your life is on the line. You take the shot, right? But it is for a little kid, a needle is very scary. And so I think that's such progress, even right there. Like that's amazing to hear.
It's scary for adults too.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know, the
sure. I
needles
mean, I
that,
still hate needles, you know?
right. So it's a huge, huge improvement coming.
Wow,
Yes.
very cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
but it is important. So your question about epinephrine, if you do have a true food allergy, it is so important that you carry your epinephrine. And I can't say that enough. I mean, I think Susie and I know it's hard. It's hard because sometimes it's big and you forget about it, you know, it's bulky. So, you know, the smaller ones like the ABQs, if you can get it, they're a little easier to carry, but then these new ones coming out are going to be, you know, smaller too and easier. See what's best for you. But your question about the expense of them is a big deal, you know, and that's something we're all working on. And we all should keep fighting for, you know, policies to make them less expensive, to get them all covered by Medicaid. You know, a lot of times in my Medicaid clinic, I can't get some of these kids.
It's absolutely insane to me. I mean, this is a a life-saving medical device for these kids with allergies. I can't make
So
sense of that.
we all got to work together because
Yeah,
I think our voices definitely work, as Susie proved just recently. So, you know,
absolutely.
we connect together and push for things just like your petition that you did, Kelsey, you know, we can really make an impact.
Wow. I mean, that's the hope, right? Definitely nothing will change if we don't all
Yeah.
raise our voices and try. But I do know that change can happen, like we just saw, which is so cool. And I actually want to take a second and talk about this. Susie, like it's crazy because basically the very first time that I sat down and had a meeting with Susie about what she did, what the Spokin App is, how I can potentially help them and how they can help me raise awareness with the petition and just kind of connect. I feel like it was my first really introduction into the allergy community. Um, and I do want to make one plug that I felt like it keeps coming to my head, so I just need to say it. I just can't separate my emotions out of these conversations. So it is what it is. But I want to say to anyone listening who has an allergy to seek out community and not close yourself off. Because as someone who lived with this reality my whole life, I didn't ever know anyone else with a severe food allergy until recently in my adulthood, really. And so I just always felt on the outside, I always felt so isolating. I always felt like the problem was me and it's mine to bear. And I felt ashamed. And there's just so much psychological stuff that goes into that. But truly, in the last 2 weeks, since having like finally speaking out about it and hearing from Susie and meeting with Susie and opening that app, I can't actually express. It feels like a weight has been lifted. It feels like, oh my hell, I'm not alone, which like that other people have this, but it's silent and you don't know who else might have an allergy or who could ever relate. And when you walk through 30 years of life and you've never met anyone that can, it's just it feels like, so I want to say for anyone who has an allergy to download Spoken, to open yourself up to these resources because they are life-changing. And for me, just emotionally and mentally, it has been such a gift to know that I am not alone in this and that I have a place where I fit in and that I just feel normal and seen and heard and not a burden and not an annoyance or anything like that. Like I've realized that I've done this to myself. Like I put myself on the outside and the allergy community is huge. And there's even in this conversation, I just feel so humbled because I've learned so much that I should know, but it's like I lost hope. So I stopped looking into the research because it wasn't going to happen in my lifetime. And I closed myself off. And now there's an app with a massive community at my fingertips. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, like if you are the one with an allergy, if you have a child with an allergy, open yourself up and tap in and connect with this community and with all of these resources because there are so many now. And it is like bright and beautiful. And I'm just so grateful. So with that said, this, like if there's one takeaway from me personally with this episode, I just want that to be heard. Don't close yourself off because you're not alone and you don't have to walk through the life alone with that. All of that to say, the day that I met with Susie for the first time, she asked me if I'd seen the Super Bowl ad from Uber Eats, and I had not yet. And she was the first person to bring it to my attention that, their commercial about forgetting things amongst this landscape of super trivial, silly things that people forget, like not wearing their pants to work. There was this clip of someone experiencing a obviously very severe, which anyone who with an allergy knows would be a life-threatening allergic reaction because he forgot that peanut butter had peanuts in it. And it just didn't belong in the landscape of the commercial because all the things were silly and trivial. And then there was like literally a life-threatening situation in the mix and being very minimalized and laughed at. And I watched it obviously immediately after Susie told me about it. And then in the next couple of days, I started getting a lot of messages sending it to me. Hey, have you seen this? Can you please say something about this? And I went and I commented on the post and I thought it was too late, and I was amazed at the reaction to just the support, the comments underneath my comment, and how many people thanked me for just saying something, and screenshots of my comment being sent to me like, thanks for saying like that you agree. And there were hundreds of people who were on this post asking them to take this clip out, asking them, just helping them realize that it wasn't okay and that it wasn't the same as everything else. And Susie immediately, like that day, she had this meeting with me and she's like, I have such a busy day because we're going to work on this. Like she had this laundry list of things that she was going to action to try to change this in the literal 48 hours before it aired in front of everybody in the world on the Super Bowl. And I could not believe when I saw Spokin post the next day that Uber had agreed to remove that clip. I mean, it was the coolest feeling in the world. And you guys, Susie is who actioned this. And I just would love to hear, Susie, run us through what you actually did, what this looks like from your point of view. Like this is such a big real-time win in the landscape of all of this. And so speaking to the point of that we can make change and there's always hope, like share with us how this happened.
Well, okay. Well, first of all, it was not only me. It was, you and Ruchi and
Sure, a
Fair that
collective. Absolutely.
the collective came together. I think, when I talked to you, I was like so in shock that I couldn't just have like a normal conversation. I was so incensed and scared about what I saw. And I kind of feel like anything is possible. And, I had a team member had spoken say the answer is always no unless you ask. And so we were like, we're going to ask. And Spokin did was, I mean, I didn't sleep. I was, what can we do that's different than just complaining? I don't want to be the allergy mom that's complaining that no one's going to like listen to. And so what we did was we went directly we found the CEO of the agency that created the ad, who we felt had more to lose and we have a better chance of getting their attention. So we sent him email and we asked him specifically, we were asking you to cut this portion, explain that. We're asking you to create an awareness campaign because you're a creative agency and there's a problem here. If there's an awareness to know that that's not funny and this one didn't belong. So create an awareness campaign. I reached out to Ruchi, who has a lot of contacts, and said in particular, there's some people you may know. One of them may be the wife of the quarterback and playing in the Super Bowl, who is an allergy mom and dad. Is there anything you can do here? Reached out to many executives at Uber Eats, including, we knew, ironically, that is the day that Uber Eats reported their financial earnings. And coming from Wall Street, I knew we're not going to get his attention. But I did research and knew that he was a father of 2 children with disabilities, of his 4, and he's very prominent in the autism community. So I actually went on Twitter/X and said, please have compassion. You know what it's like to be a parent of a child with a disability. You would never want them, bullied. And the list kind of went on with press context, etc. We made all of that public, and really tried to call on our social media, our community, like say something, be productive. And we were never trying to villainize Uber Eats. We
No.
didn't want to let them off the hook, but we didn't want to assume that they knew. And that was happening in lots of organizations, and people kind of saw, okay, it's my permission, I can say something too. We tagged you, Kelsey, and you shared, what we were sharing. And I have to say, it's going to go down as one of the biggest pinch me moments when it came out, that they agreed, because everything's possible. And I was not going to accept that it wasn't possible. And when that happened, I mean, it's hard for anybody to understand. I think, especially if you don't have some of the food allergy in your life, what a win that was. Because all I kept thinking about is somebody's child, someone's 10-year-old boy or girl watching that, seeing it, or worse, their parents seeing it and saying, it's okay, we're a leader in the community, it's okay to make fun. And that was a lot of our messaging. And I think everybody rose to the occasion, and the groundswell was something they could no longer ignore. And that agency actually had to go private on their social media because, people, we tagged them. And so, like, when your message was heard, we didn't know that it would be delivered. And that was just thrilling.
Wow. I mean, well done. Thank you so much for all of that you did. And I just, yeah. And I do want to say, like, I have a thick skin. If being a public figure is part of what you do, you have to learn to, right? I'm not easily offended, especially not like, maybe I might feel triggered by something and then I can really quickly rein it in. I keep things in perspective, but this one, it wasn't about, it was a big deal. Like, it very much was a big deal. You saw some people are like, oh, what does it matter? Like, it's just, don't take it so seriously. But like you said, the problem is that in having that, especially in this landscape of the rest of the commercial, it truly green lighted bullying and belittling and making fun of it. I mean, it's like bullying at best, and I don't say that word lightly, and then life threatening at worst. Because there are kids who would see that commercial, think that that's funny, go eat peanut butter at lunch, and run around and chase one of their kids in their class with a peanut allergy thinking it's funny. Like, it's so serious. And so I think, yeah, just you kind of just put the troops in order, and everyone, and it comes down to awareness, right? Like, it was truly, and I think we all know it's just making the right human beings who could actually call that shot aware. And once
Yeah.
they did make that change, which is also very hopeful and encouraging. So
Really. And, Kelsey, you said something that I just want to say. When you said you closed yourself off, you didn't close yourself off. The world made you. The world made you feel small having it. I don't think you did that to yourself. And I think if you were welcomed by people who had sensitivity to you, sorry, I'm like, don't mess with an allergy mom, but like, if the world was kind to you in the way that they should have been, and made you feel like you were never a burden, and that it was not a problem, there's nothing a joke, and that if the world made you feel that way, you would not have closed yourself off. I don't think you did that to yourself. That's just me. And so that's what's at stake here. What's at stake is not, the allergy kids as much seen it. It's at stake. It's the whole education of it. And it's like flipping the switch on the narrative, and you being welcomed with open arms and being taken care of, and never ever being made to feel small. You didn't close yourself off. The world did it to you. That's, we're not even an advocacy organization. I'm in business to build an app to make you, like, help you go to foreign countries and make you feel not alone. But like, as the allergy mom, every single resource we had at this company was put on this, because you should never feel small because of it. Okay, I'm done. I just don't think it's that your fault.
thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
And I'll back you up with scientific evidence of it, because, we've done so many studies of young people, and as they start entering and socializing, they don't want to talk about their allergies, right? So, our daughter's, mine's in high school, and you want to go out to eat with your friends, you want to start going, to events alone without the parents, and then you go to college and you're fully independent. And the first thing, you don't want to meet new people and say, oh, by the way, I can't go eat there because I have this allergy, right? Like, it's natural. We're social beings, and you're having to hide it and be careful, and maybe sneak food, before, so you don't, there's so many things we do instead of just being open and honest about it and getting our friends to support us. And another research study we did found that kids who did the best with their food allergies were mostly empowered because they had friends who supported them. So having that social group and having close friends who know and support you helps you do better. If you're not going to a restaurant and having to say, oh, by the way, I have and if it's now the waiters, waitresses, they come in, the server, they ask now more and more, and that's all this awareness, right? And then you don't feel funny. If your friend's asking for you, it makes you feel better. Like, let's go to a restaurant where you can.
It does.
So all of that helps. And I'll tell you this because I know it is really hard living with a food allergy, but we did do a survey of young people and asked them, did they learn anything from their food allergy? Did anything positive come out of it? And I have to bring this up because I think it encompasses who you are, Kelsey, and who we want all our children to be. Is the number one thing they said is it helped them advocate for themselves better, and it helped them advocate for others better. And then the second thing is it helped them empathize more with others with other conditions. And the third is it made them eat healthier, which is always good. But so yes, so the research backs up everything Susie said. And I do also want to commend you, Susie. When I read that email you sent, it was so brilliantly done. And why? Because as people with food allergy or parents of kids with food allergy, we can't just go and be like, you're bad, don't do it. It has to be this awareness and understanding, and we're all in it together, and I think unity and understanding. That's why I'm so grateful to be a part of this and have your voice a part of this. Because, we see in schools, those kids who run around with the peanuts behind other kids, they just don't know that peanut could potentially cause that severe of a reaction or lead to death. Once you make them aware and they understand, I don't think they would ever do something like that.
No, most people don't ever have malintent, and that's why it comes back to that awareness. Thank you both so much. I think little me and current me needed to hear all of that. So thank you. And it's interesting. I have an interview with Spokin coming out soon where I actually open up about some of the things you just mentioned, which is I am so aware and grateful for the growth that living with this has forced me into. And I see that more and more, and I am proud of that. And I wouldn't change that. And there are positives, obviously, in it's always our toughest situations that can lead to be the catalyst for our biggest growth and our biggest wins. And I also want to reiterate, now I do have people in my life and friends who I travel with who are safe for me. So sorry, I'm like a mess. But it does make the world of difference, right? And I had, like maybe one friend at different points in my life whose family knew and was accommodating. My mom would like feel safe sending me to her house and her house only. And those people did make a difference. It was nice to feel like I was comfortable and had one group or one person who wasn't going to make fun of me or I didn't have to explain things to, right? But if you are an adult with a food allergy and you feel like you don't have understanding or a circle, like you can find it and you can create that. And it took me way too long, I think, but now I do surround myself with really good people who are very understanding and helpful and kind, and it makes a huge, huge, huge difference, and I'm the luckiest ever with the way my husband has received this from day one and been there for me. And I shared about that last episode, but it makes having even one person who understands. And also I kind of want to end on this actually with advice. I shared a lot of advice and tips in my last episode, so I mostly want to open the floor for both of you to give, whether it's top tips, first of all, towards those living with food allergies like me, and then secondly, towards those who love someone with a food allergy, or just for people in general who might not, maybe this is their introduction to food allergies and the severity of food allergies. Like, what tips do you have to little things, that can make a big difference? Like, I'd love to hear both of your perspectives on that. And then I will just chime in first with mine of I would just say to anyone who doesn't have a food allergy to just be respectful. It's not something to be made fun of. And it's crazy. Like, even in my adulthood, even up till last week, like, people make light of it. A waiter or just someone new at a table that overhears that I have an allergy, they're teasing me about whatever's put in front of me. Oh, that has nuts in it. And like, and I'm like, okay, it's not funny. So I would just say, don't make light of it, be respectful towards it. And that's all my other advice is in the last episode, but I'd love to open you
Mhm.
guys up and just kind of end on whatever tips you feel are most like helpful or prevalent.
Ruchi, you wanna go?
Either. You want me to?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Um, totally appreciate that tip, and that's exactly right. Be respectful, be kind, that's all we ask. And then for people living with food allergies, a lot of what we said, know that people are there for you. So join your communities, support groups, join Spokin, reach out to either of us. Like always, I get emails all the time, and we help connect people and get you real good advice, on what to do next. So definitely join groups. Don't be alone. You're not alone. We're all there. And then for caregivers, parents of people who love people with food allergies, spouses, sisters, siblings, whatever. Just, know that you supporting that individual means the world, and we can empower them and they live their best life. I mean, you're living your best life. Our daughters are. It is just, we always say everybody's got something, right? And this is your thing. And there's nothing to be embarrassed of. It makes life hard, with food, but you can help that person live their best life. And yeah, I think just I'm feeling it, the love just in this group, and just know that it's here for everyone listening.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I think for my advice, I think if you have a public platform like you do, Kelsey, I say use it. That just I've been waiting for. We got wind that you had a nut allergy, and I've been watching you for over 6 years, waiting for like this one moment, which is why I like slid into your DMs. And when everyone's ready, when it's the time is right, but when you are ready, use your platform. If you are somebody who's not affected by it personally, but you're in the orbit, those people, you have the opportunity to change somebody's life. I had the dad of my daughter's friend flew on an airplane with her across the country and was like, are you ready to like tell someone put their nuts down? Like, like if they're eating peanuts rather, on the plane, like, you've got to protect her. And to find those people, if you can be that person, you can be the one who changes the ice cream to something else at a party to make a kid feel included. I think it's the younger you are, the more same you want to feel. So if you're the parent and you can change a snack or change something, or let the kids sleep over and change what you're having for breakfast, to make them feel like everybody else, you have the power to do so much there. I think if you have the food allergy, my biggest thing is making sure you're taking care of your mental health. And I think one of the things that helps that is feeling like you're in control. When you don't feel like you're in control, it's really tough. And resources like Spokin and all the research that Ruchi has done, there's so much out there to help you feel. We kind of treat it like a game. Okay, you can't find, Nutella with hazelnuts. Well, like that's like we live to find that stuff. Like we treat it like these big wins and we cheer on it together. I think taking care of your mental health and feeling like you have a sense of control. You taught me so much, Kelsey. We were talking about mindfulness and anxiety. We hear about that so much. Really important. But I think that's it. Play your role that you can, whatever it may be. Most importantly, if you have it yourself, stop blaming yourself, stop making yourself small. Everybody's got something, and get tested. What Ruchi said, like use science as your friend, bring the control back using science as your friend.
I'm about to literally call my doctor as soon as we hang up. So
Make sure you ask to see if you have component testing. So when you go and call your doctor, I'm gonna
To
send
be
this to
fair,
you
I actually
too.
don't have an allergy doctor anymore. It's been so long. Like I'm
Okay, we'll
starting
get
from
you one.
scratch. Okay, cool. I would love Rex. So we'll chat after about my personal
Yes.
situation, but I'm ready, fully ready again.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
guys. Well, man, I just feel like my heart is going to explode. I feel like after I filmed the last episode, to anyone listening who listened to that, I pretty much was crying the whole way through. Could not get my shit together. And I'm not apologizing for that. I learned a long time ago, like I'm an emotional, deeply feeling human, and I no longer am ashamed of that. I don't apologize for that. And I tell women all the time, like, if you're emotional, there's nothing to apologize for. So I'm not sorry, but I am so grateful for this conversation because I didn't expect walking into this room today to film that. I felt like it was going to be another heavy one just because this hits so close to home. But I feel so much love and encouragement and hope and positivity, which is something I have not felt in this area of my life in a very, very long time. So, um, truly so grateful for both of your time today and for all of the work that you're both doing to raise awareness and to just further like helping the allergy community in both of your respective fields. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah,
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you.
you guys are
Yeah.
the best. So anyone listening, remember to check the show notes. There will be lots of gold information there. Download the Spokin app, Spokin. Um, and we'll see you in there. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.